It's Feedback Friday. I've come in from my vacation. It's a holiday weekend, and I wanted to do Feedback Friday for you today. So here we go. Today we're going to learn a new composition. It's the zero, the circle. We're going to learn about that and how to use it. And we're going to talk about some paintings. We're going to show you 6 different paintings that people have submitted, and we're going to see if we can figure out a way to make them better. You'll learn more about learning from other people's paintings than you do from your own, because when we're critiquing your own, you're not listening. You're being defensive. Stop it. Okay, so let's look at the paintings we're going to do, and just so you have a sense of that. The first one is a landscape painting. The next one is a boat painting. Next, we have a captain of the boat. Okay, this is a rock painting and an architecture painting. Okay, I think, oh, and we have one more, and we have this lovely landscape painting in a park. So we have a lot to do today. We're going to teach you what we can do to make them better. Sometimes I blow it and I completely mess it up, and sometimes I get it right. You're going to be the judge of that. And of course, if you want to submit a painting, here's how to do it. You just send in your painting, go to streamlinepublishing.com/feedback-Friday. Feedback Friday. Okay, let's put that up one more time again so you can get that down. It is streamlinepublishing.com/feedback Friday. Be sure to submit your paintings. Okay, let's get this show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rose.
Art School Live is here every weekday at 12 noon. We started with COVID. We continue, and we're here to educate you, to help you learn to paint, to help you become a better painter. If you're watching and you feel as though you don't know how to paint, the good thing to watch, because you're going to learn a lot from it, and we can teach you to paint, and it's all free. We have other resources. We'll tell you about that some other time. But right now, we basically are trying to help you learn. As publisher of art magazines, frequent judge on competitions. As a matter of fact, I'm going out to Laguna to judge the 𝗙𝗵𝗆 event with a couple other judges. That's going to be exciting. First time there in decades. I've spent a lot of time going through paintings with people. Of course, I'm a painter myself, and I can't see my own problems. I was painting this week with Mark Feldman, who visited, and Mark was saying, well, did you notice this or did you notice that? And I didn't even notice because I'm out there so busily, intent in my paintings. So sometimes I have to bring them inside, turn them upside down, change them, and even then I can't see it. So that's why these are really helpful. By the way, I've critiqued my own work on this program, and maybe we'll do that again sometime too as well. So we've got some brave souls submitted their paintings. The rules are pretty simple. We never try to destroy anybody. We try to keep it positive, keep it happy, keep it upbeat, because everybody needs to learn. Everybody needs feedback. Nobody wants to be told that you should get out of this, that you're a terrible painter. And by the way, I had that happen to me early on in my career. I could not draw a stick figure, and a teacher that I had basically told me, you really shouldn't do this art thing. But today, I'm successfully selling paintings and having a good time, and that's what really matters. And I'm in some galleries, so that's that can change for you too. We're here to show you how to do that. So remember, there's nothing personal. Everything's an opinion. If you put this in front of 10 different artists, you're going to get 10 different answers. Sometimes we work on values. Sometimes we work on brushwork. Sometimes we work on composition. We usually always work on composition because that's the #1 problem. And we're going to look at black and whites and in colors, and hopefully we'll be able to give you some constructive feedback. That sound like a plan? Okay, let's go right to our first one. First one is this lovely oil. It looks like an oil painting or acrylic painting. And let's take a look at the black and white version of this. See if we can pull that up. Okay, this is from Terry in Washington. All right, Terry, congratulations. Now, what I like to do is I like to start with black and white. If you're new to this, we start with black and white because everything really is about values. Values are the darks and the lights. Let me just give you a quick value lesson if I can find it. So values would be this. White would be a value 1. Black would be a value 9. And there are little micro steps in between. So you could jump, from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other, and give you a little darker feel. So when you are looking at an object, the values determine the shape of that object and the form of that object. So if you were to look at these objects here, for instance, whoops, sorry about that. If you were to look at these objects here, we would, we can create form on a ball by making it lighter and lighter, or darker and darker, and putting shadows in. That's how you create the sense of form. So values are clearly important. Here's a really great example of a blue value painting. You've got darks in the front. It gets a little lighter, little lighter, little lighter and bluer, little lighter and bluer, little lighter and bluer as it recedes in the distance. That's why values are such an important thing to get down and understand. So let's now look at the values on this beautiful painting. Terry, congratulations on this. The things I always ask myself are, how are my values? Are my darks receding? Harley Brown talks about a great painting has receding darks, meaning things always recede. And what I'm seeing here, if I squint, and squinting, look at my eyes right now. If I squint and you see me squint, that's why I'm doing it. I'm trying to get the sense of values. And so when you squint and you look at something, things kind of reduce down to the values. And so what's happening here, Terry, is you've got a lot of really strong darks in here. You got a strong dark in here. These are pretty dark. This is kind of dark, not as dark. This kind of dark. This is kind of dark. But what's happening here is your darks need to be stronger in the front and weaker in the back. So if you had this, for instance, be a much stronger dark in the front, and then you were to reduce back some of these other darks, this is going to look a little brown. So you reduce these back, what's going to happen is it's going to recede. So these get lighter still, and then in the back, lighter still. So that's how you kind of create the sense of dark and light. But let's look at that. Oops, I can't undo what I did there. So I'll tell you what, we're going to go right to the color version so that we can look at it from a composition standpoint. Okay, so let's look at this painting. Now, when you see the color added, it does change things because color can fool the eye. For instance, back here, you've got these light blues and a little less light here, and then some behind that. And that helps the eye go backwards. And I think that's really strong. So congrats on that. First off, I like to go through the center of the painting, dead center. I like to make a line, and I like to make a line dead center. Why do I do that? Because we were all trained in kindergarten that everything should be in the center. And what's happening is right now, the focal point of this painting, whether we like it or not, is this dark spot in the center. And that's drawing the eye probably more than anything because it's so high contrast. And as a result, we have something that's dead center. Now, we don't have a horizon line dead center. Horizon line is higher, which is good. And we also have a tendency to have this kind of in dead center. So you've got this going on. And so what I would do is look for a way to move this over here, move this up here or down here, something like that. And let's look at it from what I call tic-tac-toe grid. I first learned this from somebody, 𝗙𝗵𝗍𝗍, I think. And you basically divide your canvas into thirds, right? And then you divide it into thirds the opposite direction. And where you see these crisscross points are where you want to put somewhere close to there, something that is your focal point and where you want to have your primary attention going. It just makes it more interesting. Now, you don't want to have 3 or 4 focal points. You want to have one focal point, but you can have spots of things that kind of emphasize another area, and that's a good place to put them in the spots. So as I'm looking at this, Terry, the first thing that I noticed is that you've got a lot going on here, right? You got water in here, dark water in here. It's very dark, and it feels to me like almost like black. And you've got rocks, busy rocks up here. You got a lot of leaves or a lot of branches in here. You got an island here and a lot of branches, and you got a lot of stuff going on. And the good news is you're leading the eye back to this spot. The bad news might be is it probably needs something in that spot to really draw attention. So let's look at this from the standpoint of busyness first. What can we do to reduce the busyness? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a good strong dark up in the front, because the front is where you want a good strong dark. So I'm going to put that strong dark on these rocks, right? We know these are rocks just by the shape of them. And I could make these rocks, you know, kind of a brownish color if I wanted to. See if I can find a brown. And get a nice dark in the front. And I'm not going to put too much detail in these rocks. Why? Because I'm not trying to draw the eye here. I'm trying to draw the eye backwards. Now, the next thing is the sky tends to be the reflected light. And the reflected light in this particular sky, we have a dark gray sky, kind of a purpley sky up in here. And we have a really bright spot up here. So it could be reflecting light that's overhead. But let's first address a couple other things here. Let's get these darks reduced down. So I'm going to just go ahead and put kind of a darkish blue in here. You know, we tend to think, you know, skies are blue, and sometimes they are. I think what I would do is I would just kind of make this one continuous thing to start out with. And this little island isn't doing anything for me right now. So I'm just going to make it disappear. And I'm going to take this water, all this complexity, and I'm going to simplify the water, and I'm going to take it back. Now, see, just by simplifying that, it really helps the composition because there was just so much going on. And all the other stuff now isn't fighting me. And then if you want, you can take some of this color in the sky. What I'm doing is I'm putting dots in there. So you can take some of this color that's in the sky and you can put a little of that in here, but I would keep it kind of delicate, not a whole bunch of bright spots, right? So you're leading the eye with that and keep it delicate. The other thing is I would probably darken this area in here just a little bit, because the question is, where do we want the eye to go? And I think what we want to do is we want to bring the eye back here. So I'm kind of darkening some of this. Obviously, I'm not putting it in as grass or leaves, but I'm kind of just giving you an indication here. Get a little dark edge on this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to draw the eye back in here a little bit and draw the eye back in here a little bit. Get this darkened up a little bit, because again, it's fighting us. And so what we've done here is we've just kind of simplified this composition. Just keep it not too busy, right? Now already the composition's pulling my eye in. Then what I would probably do, you've got some light on the trees back here. And so what I think I'd probably do is I'd look for an opportunity to maybe give me some eye candy back here. Maybe pump that light up back in here so that now the eye is going back here and you're like, wow, there's something cool going on. And maybe to give the sense of some light happening, maybe you get some light, a little bit of light on these trees. These are kind of dark, so they need to be lightened up anyway. And then maybe you take this white and you pull the eye right into there, right? So now that's just made this a whole lot more pleasing overall. Get some good darks up in front here, and get some of this detail out of there. You can have it there, but you just don't, you want to kind of indicate, because you're really trying to drive people into here. Again, nice dark edge on that. That's going to help you and just pull you back. Now, what happens is your eye's going to want to go back there, and you're going to, oh, there's some really cool trees back there. Now, you might even go so far as to pump up the light a little bit on these trees in the background. That's the bell. That means we're out of time on this one. But, you know, maybe look for a way to pump up the light back here. I like to exaggerate things in distance. And so maybe we just get these trees up there. I want to see a little bit more of them because, you know, they're in the distance, and these kind of read like distant trees. And that doesn't mean you can't have these in the background, but and you know, of course, that could be a mountain too back there if you wanted it to be a mountain. See how that just changes everything? So look for opportunities to do that and keep your bright spots where you want to draw the attention. Okay, let's go to the next one. Next one, we have a boat. We have a boat on the ocean. We're going to start with the black and white, and we're going to go through the composition test first and foremost. We're going to go dead center and dead center. And guess where that boat is? That boat is dead center. And that typically is a tough thing to deal with. And so what I might consider doing is moving the boat over here so that the boat is not quite so dead center, right? And that way it's kind of looking off into the distance a little bit as well. So that would fix that already. You don't have your horizon line dead center. You've got a nice high horizon line, and that's good. And so now let's look at it from a tic-tac-toe perspective. And same thing, you know, your boat is kind of centered. So if you move it down in here or move it up in here, probably not up there, that might help. So let's look at it from a values standpoint. I think the values are probably pretty good. What I'm seeing here is you got a nice dark up in front, some good darks up in front, but this dark is almost equal and this dark is almost as equal. And people keep making those same mistakes, and it's the same mistakes I've always made. So again, just by getting your darks, get a good dark restated in here somehow. And, you know, I'm probably not interested in so much busyness. There's maybe a dark shadow in here. And then maybe reduce this dark in here so it's not quite as dark, right? And maybe reduce the shadow dark as well. And this will help it just read a little bit more. Now, there's a lot of other things going on here, but let's talk about it in color first, okay? So this is from, I don't see the name on this, but anyway, color changes everything. But the first question I had when I was looking at this, I was trying to figure this out. And the question was, where is the light? And ask yourself that question. Where's the light coming from? Well, it appears the light is coming from here because it's slamming the side of that boat in light. And yet the sun appears to be going down over here. and so I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Probably what's going on is that these clouds are a reflection of sun coming from back here. And as a result, that might change how I would paint this. If this is where the light's coming from, which I think it is, then let's look at this from a standpoint of what can we do to really pump up the contrast. Right now, the contrast is all this bright color, right? And is this a sunset painting or is this a boat painting? Because if it's a sunset painting, then you've done the right thing. If it's a boat painting, then maybe you could have done it differently. So let's just assume that we're slamming this boat with light, and maybe it's, let's see what color it is. Maybe it's a pink. Let's just increase the chroma on this boat and make it feel like it's in light. I might even just get some yellows in there. Maybe get some yellow on that edge there. And that way what we're doing is we're really creating this sense of, you know, red is a lower value color, so it's a little hard. So you might have to go to an orange or something like that. But the idea, and of course you can create your form with some stuff in light. And then you can take this same red and maybe make this in shade, but now it doesn't feel quite so dark. And you might put the inside of the boat in shade as well. And I don't know what color the inside of a boat is. Probably something like this, right? It's wood. And so to me, that that helps. Now I would blue up my shadows a little bit, not blow up, but blue up. And so your shadow is a little bit dark to me, and I would try to exaggerate this shadow in here. You've done some nice light in the shadow, and I like that. And you've anchored the boat beautifully with that dark spot underneath, but I'd like to, okay, so I just had a revelation that the shadow is coming this way. That means the light's coming this way, but there's light on the side of the boat. So if the light is coming from here, then we're going to take the shadow out over here. We'll just take it off the page there. And then we're going to increase the light on this side of the boat. And then it's going to be slamming, right? So that's one way to deal with this. If this boat were in shade, then what we really need to do, if the light's coming from here, then what we need to do is to put this boat in shade, and that's going to be, something more like that. And then whites tend to go blue, right? So put that white in shade. Now it looks like the boat is in shade. And then if the light's coming from over there, maybe you might have a halo or something, along the edge of this boat where it's catching some of that light. So now it kind of feels like the light's coming from this direction. Then if you're going to do that, then you go back into the shadow shape, and then you can, again, make that shadow a little bit lighter, and you can exaggerate it a little bit if you want to, because it depends on how low the sun is, right? So you can do that, and of course you've got the waves in here. And then what you can do is, I like to go in and soften the edges with a little bit lighter value around my shadows. Typically, it just feels better, and you can put a little of that softer color in there. Now, the other thing I would probably do if I want to draw attention in here, I would probably look for a way to have another shadow in here. It could be a shadow from anything, but what's happening is we're fighting a lot of this busyness, and this can be waves, and just have these waves be a little bit darker. That way it's bringing most of your attention to the boat. You see, the eye is automatically going there. If we take that out, you want to go. I would also, I'm a little bit shy about my colors these days. I would probably make that sun just a little less garish everywhere. It's pretty bright. And so, it is bright, but maybe you pick a couple of spots and let that sun really radiate with brilliance like you have right in here, and maybe even get a little white in there. That's not white. You've got some white in here. You got some stuff going in it, and then you've got maybe some reflection on the water. Okay, anyway, I probably screwed that one up. Let's go to the next one. Okay, we have Captain here. Portraits and composition are a little bit more, a little bit trickier. This is from Deanna Radar in Washington. Congrats, Deanna. I like this. It looks to me like it's probably a watercolor portrait, and it looks like it's pretty well executed. Congratulations. If we're looking at composition, let's just go through that. Dead center, right? Dead center, he's dead center. And so maybe I would move him off to the side or something. Let's see what the composition marks. If I do 1/3, I'd probably move him off to over here, and that way he can have some space over here. In terms of values, it's a little harder to do values at distance. you know, up front, but you do have a lot of values here that could serve you, like the front of his jacket. You could get that a little bit darker, this shadow. Maybe you've got some good darks in here, so maybe that's sufficient enough. And maybe even pop up the value on his hat just a little bit. What I would say is this is probably needing a little bit of work in terms of form. So let's go to the color version. This feels like a very it's a sense like this is somebody you really love. I think that's really cool, Deanne. Okay, so let's just go back to what we talked about. Now, watercolor is a little harder to deal with to get good darks. Sometimes you have to go back in there multiple times, but let's just emphasize some of these darks. And we're not trying to draw too much attention over here, so we're going to probably just bring this back just a little bit, because I don't want these spots of light in here. I want to draw attention to, you know, we got a lot of light going on here, but I want to draw attention to him. So if that's the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this shadow color, and I'm just going to reduce this down a little bit, okay? Because I don't want it to fight me, because it's not about the color of his shirt. It's, and we can even make this a little darker so that it's not fighting me. And same thing on the other side of this scarf. Really, we want the scarf to kind of lead us in. So we can maybe put some bright spots on the scarf up into here, and then we can have that scarf kind of fade into this other color. You know, you've got patterns on the scarf. But really what we're looking at here is, let's look at stating our darks. And so if we go a little bit darker, I think what I'd like to see is to see just a little bit more dark in him. And I can't tell, the light seems to be coming from the front, and that's always tough. Or it's overhead, because you've got the shadow in here. So you might look for ways that you can just get some, these darks are probably a little too dark, but just get some more subtle darks in here so that you can get a sense of form. The eyes are almost always in shadow, and look for places that you can find ways to get form. So if you're photographing somebody, look for ways to get some shadow shapes in here, so that you've got kind of a nice triangle under the eyes, and maybe a nice shadow here, and maybe we go for a little shadow on the beard over here, so that we want to create a sense of form. You've got some in here, but look for a way to do that. And then what I would do is I would look for how can I really pump up the light on the captain here. And maybe it's just, you know, pumping up the light on parts of his face that are going to get a little bit more light. And see, that just changes the form quite a bit just by doing that. And then, you know, you could pump up the light on his hair. He's got that lovely white hair. And so you could have, you know, a little bit more light on one side, a little darker on the other side. The other thing I like to do with portraits is I like to have a nice background. Now, I don't have watercolor here, but you've got a white halo around him. And what I would look to do is look for a way that you can kind of create a strong dark around him, because what this does is it makes that flesh pop, right? And by giving a strong dark, it's just going to make a big difference. So I hope you can see that. Now, what I see here, now that I've darkened that background, I would then look to darken this in here a little bit more, because we're drawing a lot of attention over here. We could get a little bit of light on his collar here, maybe a little bit of light on his shoulder. But I think that what we want to do is look for ways that we can kind of get this all a little darker in here, so that we're bringing most of our attention to the face, and maybe even get some good darks in there around the face. And that just helps create a little bit more sense of form. Okay, let's do the next one. Good job, Dan. All right. Next we have rock painting. Now, I got to tell you, Larry Hughes from Cordova, congratulations. I struggled with this one. First off, the very first thing is I thought it was a modern abstract painting. And then the more I looked at it, I realized, no, it's a representational painting. It's a realist painting. And this is a rock painting. And so I found it to be really interesting, actually. I thought it was pretty good. I like, first off, how your values are really, you've got really great values in these rocks in here. They're in dark, but you know, they're really reading like rocks, and reading like that's in shadow. And I like the idea of a foreground shadow. So I'm going to tell you that first off. Let's just do the circle test. Well, he's not in the circle, not in the middle. Let's do the thirds. And he's done a good job. I maybe move this dark spot over. I can't tell what that dark spot is. I don't know if it's a shadow or a figure. I kind of think it's a figure because it looks like a head, a body, an arm, and a leg. Maybe somebody painting, but that's where my mind goes because of that. So let's look at it in color and see what we can learn from it. This is beautifully executed, by the way. And I love this dark shadow in here. I think that's really wonderful. What I'm trying to figure out is what's going on here. Now, can I zoom that in? It looks like there might be a building here, like an opening to something. And it looks like this might be a shadow or a shape. That's what I'm struggling with. I don't know. And so, Larry, we do this kind of thing all the time. You know, sometimes we struggle with it. The thing that really caught my eye is that there's a lot of spots of light. First off, a lot of light all over the place, and I don't know where to go. I think this beautiful transition here is really beautiful, but my eye doesn't know where to go. And where do you want my eye to go? If this is your primary focal point in here, then that's where you want the eye to go. So what I would consider doing, even though you may not be seeing it, is I would look for ways to kind of bring back some of this other stuff. Look for ways to darken that a little bit. And now what I would do is look for a way to ramp up my lights right in here, because that's what I want to do. And then you've got this really interesting shade, mustard colored shade back here. I would probably just darken that just a little bit. See if we can get it dark enough. And try to create a sense of something, drawing my eye into one particular area. Now, this is really well executed, and so I feel kind of bad about doing this, but what I'm trying to do is to figure out how to make my eye go to where it needs to go. And so shadows, obviously this is a warm shadow, and it can be a warm shadow if you want it to be. A lot of artists, Ray Roberts talks about making shadows warm. And then the other thing is I look at this and I say, there's got to be some really good color in this. And so maybe pump up some darks to create some form on these rocks, you know, and same thing back in here. So you can tell what it is, and then maybe look for an opportunity to pump up the color somewhere. You know, if there's a couple of spots where the color is really intense, maybe this is a good place to do it because it's a focal point. I would look at this and ask myself, what is that, and how can I communicate that more effectively? One way might be to crop and then make this, you know, so that you can tell what it is. You know, maybe make that a little more prominent. I still don't know what that is. I'm sorry, Larry, I don't mean to be offending you. Anyway, that's kind of what I do. Next, we have what? We have this lovely architecture painting. This is Antonio Garcia in Spain. All right, Antonio, congratulations. I think painting architecture is so hard, and you've done a beautiful job. But let's start out with composition. Okay, dead center. All right, so we got a line here going across here. We got this rail going across here, and we have our darkest dark kind of right here in the middle. And so that's kind of giving me the indication that that's a little bit centered. Let's try the tic-tac-toe board, all right? So if we did that, then what we would do is we'd move this dark spot over here, or we'd move it over here. So let's look at values now. The darkest dark is in here, and you do want to have a dark where your focal point is, probably your darkest dark, but you probably want to have something that is a little darker. So what I might want to consider doing, Larry, is I can't really tell. Let's see, the sun is coming from here. So there could be another shadow in here from something. I don't know what it is, but if you got that dark shadow up in front in here, that might help me. And then the question is, where do you want to draw the eye? You want to draw it here, 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 or here. And so that's the question. So what I would look for is, you know, I don't know your intent, but I would look for what is it that I really want to draw the eye to. All of these are really wonderful. Let's go to the color version. Okay, color helps a little bit, actually helps a lot. First off, nice shadows in here. And also you can see that there's a little bit of color in here. What I would do, if this is your focal point, I would look for a way to bump up that color in that one spot. And you've got this bright yellow in here that kind of works as a focal point. Now, the other thing is the sun is not white. And whenever you use white paint, you're struggling with things being a little bit blue. So can you find a way to make things look a little bit yellower? Can you make them, you know, your white spots a little yellower? And I would say you can. I would probably, you've got so much going on here. I would probably look for ways to get some variations in this yellow color. Maybe, you know, look at that yellow against that purple. Isn't that beautiful? Purple vibrates. And so, you know, getting a little bit more color in all of this might help it. You know, that's awfully cool, that street. And, you know, just getting some color in there. But I think what I would do is I would probably look for a way to change the composition so that it's more like something like this, so that it's not doing that big white spot. See if let's see if we can go back here and do this. All right. So again, what do we want the eye to go to? With this big white spot, it's dominating. And so if we can figure out a way to make that white spot get a little less white, it might not draw the eye quite so much. Now, that could be, you know, it could be a little bit in shade. Same over here. Get all these lights kind of reduced down a little bit, and then figure out what we're going to do with the rest of it. So if we get a nice shadow shape in here, got a nice shadow in here, maybe going across like that to kind of match the other shadow. And then maybe we even put this in shadow so it's not drawing the eye. Then what we can do is we can have the eye led in, so we get some nice yellow in here. So we got nice yellow in here, and you could lead me to this door, then you can lead me back into here, and then you can lead me up to this, and then down to this red spot, and, you know, maybe pump up the light in here just a little bit more. Sometimes what we see and what we put are two different things. So I would probably just maybe even orange that up just a little bit. So that's what I'm considering, but this is still fighting. There's a lot of stuff fighting. So I did a architecture drawing the other day, or painting, and what I did is I made up a shadow. So you can make up a shadow so that it's, you can even make it the shape of a building or a house or something. So it looks like something is reflecting onto that. That way it's not going to be fighting you. And look for ways to reduce down all the bright spots that are grabbing attention. Now, if you want, you could really pump up this area here, the light on this building too, but I would try not to do the whole thing, just because it's going to fight you. And so again, maybe you look for a way to get that into a little bit of shade so that you're drawing the eye where you want it. That's a very complicated composition, but really good job on that. Really beautifully executed. Okay, we have one more. Next, we have this beautiful landscape painting with a dappled light, and it's a different format. Let's see if we can get this. Okay. All right. So what we have here is, let's check our composition. So first off, dead center. Now, we don't have anything dead center, but we have our horizon dead center. So could we make this a higher horizon? Could we make this a lower horizon? Yes, the answer is we could. Let's look at the rule of thirds. Okay, the tree really fits in these two composition points. That's why it's such a good looking composition, and it kind of even goes over to that spot. I would probably move that bench or that statue into here, not both, and ask myself then, where do I want the eye to go? So let's go to the values next. I would say that the values are fighting. Charles from Texas, by the way, nice job on this. The values are fighting us a little bit. And so we have a shade from this tree, and we got all this light in the front. And I would probably just look for a way to get this darker in the front. And that light can be slamming in there, and this could still be in shade. And so I might consider making this a little bit more shady, and take your shade out a little bit more, because trees like this tend to go all over the place. Now, there's light coming in, and that light is coming in pretty strong. And so you've got a really strong painting here. The tree is absolutely lovely. But what's our composition? What are we trying to bring attention to? I think clearly the tree. But let's look at this from a color standpoint, see what happens. All right, so this looks like watercolor. It's beautiful. So again, let's just play what we did before. Let's just bring in some more of this shadow. Now, that doesn't mean we can't have dappled light in there. We can, but we don't want that dappled light to be bringing the eye out of the composition or into places where we don't want it. So up in these areas, keep it less dapply. And I would probably, like I said, bring that over here, leave a little dappled light in here. The other thing is, notice how the contrast is really strong now. So if you get a good contrast, that dappled light will stand out. So now we can go back in here and we can restate some of these dapples. And you could even lead the dapples in, so the dapples are leading to that part of the composition if you wanted to do that. So dapples are like tree holes. You don't want to overdo them. Now, the next question is, where do we want the eye to go? Do we want it to go over here where we have that bright spot, or do we want it to go over here? I think we want it to go over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this shade here. We're going to just make this a little less bright in here. And I might even reduce down these trees because these brights are drawing the eye, even though that's what you saw, because we want to draw the eye over here. So you've got that nice dappled look. I would reduce this down on the edge because you don't want to take them out of the painting. And now you've got, you've got a nice bright spot there. As a matter of fact, I might even look for a way to get that bright spot just a little bit more intense right around that. And then the other question is, what about color? Now you've got this tree is magnificent, and I think the bench is fine. I just leave the bench alone, but I would look for a way to really enhance some of this color just a little bit more. You've got some nice color in this tree, and I like the fact that you've got spots of dark and light, but I'd like to get a little bit more of this color, especially where shadow and light meet. You can have a little bit more chroma. And so get a little bit more of that color in there. And I think that helps that tree read just a little bit better. And then I would probably look for a way to bump up the light. Let's see if we can do this. Bump up the light in here. I'll make that a little bit warmer. And then I would look for a way to reduce the shadow. I'm trying to find that color. There we go. I would get the shadow so it's not taking the eye out. Just the same thing, we don't want to take the eye out. And then over in here, the eye is getting drawn over here a little bit too. So I just kind of look for ways to really make this all about, this tree. And then I would look for a way, now watercolor, this is tougher, but I would look for a way to, let's see if we can find that shade, slam that light just a little bit brighter, maybe on the edge of that tree. Now, when it's white, it's hard. In watercolor, you have to think about these things in advance, but just get, that light really slammed in there. I really think that's fun. And keep it warm so that it really stands up. Now, you don't need to do anything more with that statue. The statue reads well on its own. And if you wanted to, you could bring some more attention to it. But this is a tree painting, and it's a lovely tree painting. Charles, I'd love to see you touch this up. And also, let's get this value here down in here a little bit. Let's get a little bit more darker value in here, so that dark isn't standing out quite so much. All right. Anyway, that's what we got for today. I think that's all we got. Do we have any more? No, I don't think so. Okay. So composition, that's the next step. We have a composition which is called an O or circle composition. O or circle composition is basically a circle. All right. So how do you do that? Well, let's just say that you've got a mountain, and you've got a lake. That lake is kind of like, got some trees in here, got some shoreline in here, but this lake is your primary composition spot. So this is basically an O. It's a circle, it's an oval. And so you can use that circle. Now let's look at a different scenario. Let's say we've got a landscape, and we've got a road going in, and let's say we've got some mountains in here. Okay. And let's say, we'll get some dark on these mountains. And then we've got a bunch of clouds. So we could have, like a big cloud, right? And so maybe some little clouds in here to kind of reinforce it. But that big cloud is basically a big O. Big O. Or that could be, you could do the same thing and make that into a tree. That could be a big tree. But the idea is it's a big O that is dominating the composition. Okay. Well, I hope that helps. I hope this has been helpful to you. Before we go, I want to tell you about a couple things that we're doing soon. We have some online conferences, and these online conferences are designed to help you immerse yourself in art. A lot of us have been wanting to get better or learn from scratch. And sometimes it just takes immersion, meaning, just jump in and stay in it for 3 or 4 days, because you can, if you concentrate, otherwise you're going to be like doing a little this and a little that, next thing you know, years pass and you don't get anywhere. The idea of a concentrated learning scenario is we've got a conference, it's 4 days, 3 days for sure, and fourth if you do the optional Essentials Day. And essentially what you can do is immerse with the world's leading instructors. And then by learning with them, you're painting along, you're learning, you're flooding yourself with all this data and all the answers to the problems, or many of the answers to the problems. And then for the next year, you're out there going, now I know what to do. You know how to solve the problem. You just have to practice it over and over and over again. Our first event for September is Pastel Live. That is the world's leading pastel artist, and it's September 18th through 20th with the Essential Techniques Day on the 19th. I'll be hosting it along with 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗡, and we are going to have a blast. This is where pastel people meet. This is like the online pastel place to go, and of course there are fabulous places, lots of great organizations that you should be part of, lots of great conventions you should go to. So this is not them. This is an online version. You don't have to get on an airplane. You don't have to pay hotel rooms or rent a car, and you can immerse yourself. And then, you might say, well, I need to go to the next level. And then you can get on an airplane and do something else. But that's Pastel Live. Then coming up after Pastel Live, we have Realism Live. Same kind of thing, but this is realist subjects, topics, realism, tight realism, academic and impressionistic. And a great opportunity to learn about realism. That's in November. And then we have Watercolor Live in January. And then we have Acrylic Live coming up in March. So those are some things for you. Okay, I also want to just mention to you that Fall Color Week, I think we have to have this thing. I think today is the last day. Is today the last day of the month? So we have to have this filled up and answers on this. And last I looked, and I've been on vacation this week, so it may not be true. Last I looked, there were 4 seats left. We got extra seats. We were sold out. We got some extra rooms, and I know that a bunch of them sold. I don't know what happened this week, but if you want to check it out, go to Fall Color Week. It's a great retreat, a lot of fun, and it's an event unlike any other, except for my other one, which is called Paint Adirondacks. It's the Publisher's Invitational, and that takes place in June, and that's already like 80% sold out. So come, it's going to be a lot of fun. And remember that we have a free gift for you. Would you like a free gift? I thought so. So what's our free gift today? We have 97 secrets, 97 art secrets. If you're an artist or want to be, this free video, it's a couple hours long. You can get it online instantly and watching on our app, or you can get the DVD. All you got to do is pay the shipping if you get the DVD, which is cheap. Anyway, that's just go to 97artsecrets.com/free. Let me show that to you one more time. 97artsecrets.com/free. Okay, I hope you enjoyed Feedback Friday. Hope you have a great Labor Day weekend. I will be here on Labor Day for our Art School Live Marketing Monday. And we're here every weekday at 12 Eastern. I want to thank 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗡 for filling in this week. I had a guest artist in town, Mark Feldman, and we went painting every day, and that was a lot of fun. And so I got to take a little time off, which was great. I'm going to take some more time off, including the rest of today. I'm going to go finish up some paintings that I need to finish for a big show coming up. And I hope you guys have a really terrific weekend. If you want something to do, if it's raining or something, go back and watch Art School Live on YouTube. Go there and subscribe. Just go to YouTube, hit Art School Live, search Art School Live, and then hit the subscribe button. Okay? And then if you give me a follow, that would be terrific too, at Eric Rhodes on X, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. I'm on all of them. And then last but not least, have a really terrific day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.